In 1995, 6 frames of classified CIA photographs surfaced that changed everything we thought we knew about Noah's Ark. These images, taken in 1949 and locked away for nearly 50 years, contained satellite coordinates, ground-penetrating radar scans, and DNA analysis results from Mount Ararat. What they found wasn't just wood fragments from an ancient boat. It was something that challenged accepted assumptions about the age of the Ark and human civilization itself. The government spent decades keeping this evidence buried, but now declassified files reveal why they were so desperate to hide the truth about what really happened during the Great Flood. But these documents represent only the beginning of a much larger surveillance operation. The classified files that changed everything. Archival documents show CIA interest in Mount Ararat dating back to the 1950s, with continuous satellite monitoring stations positioned across eastern Turkey. The official reason given to congressional oversight committees was geological research and earthquake prediction. The real reason was something else entirely. Internal memos released through Freedom of Information Act requests show that multiple intelligence agencies coordinated efforts to track any unauthorized expeditions to specific coordinates on the mountain. These weren't random archaeological sites. They were precise locations where ground-penetrating radar had detected massive structural anomalies buried beneath centuries of ice and volcanic debris. The declassified documents from recent years contain hundreds of pages of previously restricted material spanning from 1949 to 1992. Among the most significant revelations are detailed topographical maps marking distinct anomalous zones across Mount Ararat's northwestern face. Each zone corresponds to radar signatures indicating large-scale artificial structures buried at depths ranging from 40 to 120 feet below the surface. The files include high-resolution satellite imagery captured using classified reconnaissance technology that can penetrate through rock and ice formations. These images reveal geometric patterns and structural layouts that don't match any known geological formations in the region. More disturbing than the structural evidence are the laboratory reports contained within these files. Starting in 1978, government-sponsored expeditions recovered organic samples from multiple locations on the mountain. The wood fragments weren't just ancient. They contained cellular structures and preservation characteristics that challenged fundamental assumptions about decomposition rates and environmental degradation over extended time periods. Some samples showed signs of treatment with preservation compounds that wouldn't be developed by human civilization for thousands of years after the estimated age of the materials. Separate soil analyses conducted by Noah's Ark scans at the Durupinar site produced carbon dating results indicating materials aged 4,800 to 5,000 years old. Bureaucratic paper trail reveals coordination between the CIA, NSA, Department of Defense, and the State Department in maintaining secrecy around these findings. Interagency correspondence shows heated debates about disclosure protocols and potential security implications. A 1982 memo from the CIA director to the Secretary of Defense specifically mentions concerns about paradigm disruption and social stability factors related to the Mount Ararat discoveries. Another document from 1995 references coordination with international intelligence agencies to prevent unauthorized research teams from accessing specific areas of the mountain. The classification level assigned to these materials was higher than standard archaeological findings would typically warrant. Documents carried designations normally reserved for nuclear weapons research and foreign intelligence operations. This level of secrecy becomes more puzzling when considering that the official explanation involved studying ancient wood fragments. The classification protocols required special clearance levels for anyone accessing the files, and distribution was limited to fewer than 20 individuals across all government agencies involved in the project. Recent analysis of the document release timing suggests the disclosure wasn't voluntary. Legal pressure from multiple Freedom of Information Act lawsuits filed between 2022 and 2024 forced the government's hand. Several of these lawsuits specifically targeted Mount Ararat-related materials after researchers noticed gaps in previously released archaeological documents. The timing coincides with similar forced disclosures of archaeological evidence from sites in Egypt, Peru, and Mexico, suggesting a broader pattern of government resistance to releasing materials that challenge established historical narratives. The files contain references to discoveries that directly contradict accepted timelines for human technological development. Technical analyses describe construction techniques and materials that shouldn't exist in archaeological contexts, dating to the periods indicated by initial carbon dating results. Engineering assessments of the structural remains indicate construction capabilities that exceed what mainstream archaeology attributes to civilizations from those time periods. These discrepancies prompted immediate classification and removal of several research teams from the project. International coordination documents show that the Mount Ararat cover follows established patterns used for other archaeological discoveries worldwide. Similar classification protocols were applied to findings at underwater sites in the Mediterranean, megalithic structures in South America, and anomalous artifacts recovered from various excavations across 6 continents. The consistency of these suppression efforts suggests institutional policies designed to control information about discoveries that challenge conventional historical understanding. The most heavily redacted sections of the released documents concern genetic analysis performed on organic materials recovered from the site. Laboratory reports from 1981, 1994, and 2003 contain extensive biological data with most specific findings blacked out completely. What remains visible indicates that DNA extraction was successful, and that genetic analysis produced results significant enough to warrant immediate security classification. References to unprecedented genetic markers and non-standard chromosomal structures appear in multiple documents, but specific details remain classified at levels higher than the documents already released. Cross-references within the files mention coordination with medical research facilities and genetic laboratories that typically handle classified biological warfare research. This suggests the genetic materials recovered from Mount Ararat were considered sensitive enough to require the same security protocols used for potentially dangerous biological agents. The involvement of these specialized facilities indicates the genetic analysis results were far more significant than routine archaeological DNA studies would warrant. Additional documents reference ongoing monitoring of the site using advanced sensing technology not available to civilian researchers. Seismic monitoring stations positioned around the mountain track underground activity and structural changes within the anomalous zones. Thermal imaging satellites maintain continuous surveillance to detect any signs of renewed archaeological activity or unauthorized excavation attempts. This level of ongoing monitoring for an allegedly inactive archaeological site suggests concerns about what might still be discovered there. The files also reveal attempts to discredit legitimate researchers who approach too close to the truth about the Mount Ararat discoveries. Academic careers were systematically destroyed through funding cuts, peer review manipulation, and professional isolation campaigns. Several researchers who published findings that aligned too closely with the classified evidence experienced coordinated efforts to undermine their credibility and prevent further investigation of their discoveries. Perhaps most significantly, the DNA analysis sections contain the heaviest redactions in the entire document release. Laboratory technician notes that escaped censorship mention impossible genetic sequences and artificially enhanced genetic markers found in multiple samples. These brief glimpses suggest the genetic evidence from Mount Ararat reveals something about the origins of the organic materials that required the highest levels of government secrecy to conceal. But the technology available to those early researchers was primitive compared to what modern science can accomplish today. Advanced technology reveals ancient secrets. Advanced satellite and ground-penetrating radar imaging has revealed unnatural geometric anomalies beneath Mount Ararat's surface that previous researchers never had the technology to detect. These systems can penetrate through ice, rock, and sediment layers with resolution capabilities that create three-dimensional subsurface maps without disturbing the mountain's surface. The technology distinguishes between natural rock formations and artificially constructed structures based on how electromagnetic waves interact with different materials buried underground. Ground-penetrating radar technology now operates at multiple frequencies simultaneously, allowing archaeologists to examine subsurface features at various depth levels. The radar units emit electromagnetic pulses downward into the earth, and the reflected signals create detailed images of buried objects, structural foundations, and material boundaries. At the Duru Pinar Formation, researchers have detected metal-like radar echoes at depths between 40 and 78 feet, showing angular structures and corridors that align with geometric patterns rather than natural geological formations. Teams working on Mount Ararat use arrays of radar units that scan large areas simultaneously, creating comprehensive subsurface maps in hours rather than months. Unmanned aerial vehicles equipped with advanced sensor packages are mapping sections of Mount Ararat that human teams have never reached safely. These drones carry high-resolution cameras, magnetometers that measure variations in magnetic fields caused by buried metal objects, and electromagnetic sensors that identify subsurface anomalies. The flight patterns are programmed using artificial intelligence systems that optimize coverage while avoiding restricted airspace and dangerous weather conditions. Each drone mission collects massive amounts of data that feed directly into analysis programs running on supercomputers located thousands of miles from the mountain itself. Multispectral imaging systems capture light across multiple electromagnetic spectrum bands to identify organic compounds buried underground. These sensors detect subtle differences in surface vegetation patterns, soil moisture content, and mineral compositions that indicate the presence of wood, fabric, or other organic materials below ground. The imaging reveals how plant growth patterns change when roots encounter buried structures or when soil chemistry differs due to decomposing organic matter. Advanced algorithms compare spectral signatures from Mount Ararat against databases containing reference patterns from known archaeological sites worldwide. Artificial intelligence programs analyze thousands of satellite images of Mount Ararat captured over recent years, searching for geometric patterns, structural alignments, and surface features that suggest artificial construction. The AI systems examine data across multiple time periods, identifying changes in snow melt patterns, erosion rates, and vegetation growth that might reveal buried structures. Machine learning algorithms trained on data from confirmed archaeological sites can recognize subtle indicators that human researchers might overlook during manual image analysis. Processing power runs continuously, examining new satellite data as it becomes available and refining detection algorithms based on verification from expedition teams. Thermal imaging satellites record surface temperature variations across Mount Ararat with precision measuring minute temperature differences. Underground structures affect surface temperatures because they alter heat transfer patterns through soil and rock layers. Wooden structures buried for thousands of years create thermal signatures different from surrounding geological formations because wood conducts heat differently than stone or compacted earth. The thermal data reveals temperature anomalies in multiple specific locations on Mount Ararat, with the most significant signatures appearing in areas where ground-penetrating radar has also detected structural anomalies. High-resolution aerial scanning has mapped subtle surface clues pointing to buried structures across thousands of acres of Mount Ararat terrain. Laser scanning systems fire millions of light pulses per second toward the ground, measuring the time required for each pulse to return and calculating exact distances to create detailed topographical models. This technology penetrates through vegetation and snow cover to reveal underlying terrain features that remain invisible in conventional photography. The scanning identifies subtle elevation changes, unusual geometric patterns, and artificial modifications to natural landforms that might indicate construction activity from ancient periods. Quantum magnetometry sensors detect variations in gravitational and magnetic fields caused by density differences in subsurface materials. These sensors measure gravitational anomalies with extreme precision, revealing how underground masses differ from surrounding geological formations. Large wooden structures buried in earth create measurable gravitational signatures because wood has different density characteristics than rock or compacted soil. The quantum sensors also detect magnetic field variations caused by metal objects, including iron nails, bronze fittings, or other metallic components that might be part of ancient construction. Previous generations of Mount Ararat researchers worked with technology no more advanced than metal detectors, basic cameras, and manual excavation tools. They relied on visual observations, basic soil sampling, and rudimentary carbon dating techniques that provided age estimates accurate only within centuries rather than decades. Modern researchers have access to sensing technologies originally developed for military applications, space exploration, and advanced medical imaging. The computational power available for data analysis exceeds the processing capabilities of entire universities from previous decades. The combination of these technological capabilities has identified multiple major subsurface anomalies across Mount Ararat's northwestern face. Each anomaly shows characteristics consistent with large-scale wooden construction, including geometric patterns, dimensional relationships, and material signatures that match historical descriptions of massive ancient vessels. Soil samples collected from 22 points within and around the Durupinar Formation show significantly different characteristics inside the formation compared to surrounding soil, with higher concentrations of organic matter and wood residue. The size and scope of these anomalies exceed what previous researchers ever imagined they might find on the mountain. But detecting these structures from orbit and understanding what they actually represent are two completely different challenges. The only way to verify what the technology was revealing would require teams of researchers to make the dangerous ascent to Mount Ararat itself, carrying equipment that had never been deployed together in a single archaeological expedition. The Mount Ararat expeditions of 2025. 3 separate research teams made the ascent to Mount Ararat's northwestern face, carrying expensive, cutting-edge equipment that had never been deployed together in a single archaeological expedition. The international team included Andrew Jones leading the California-based Noah's Ark scans organization, along with Turkish geological specialists and former military communications experts who managed the complex data transmission requirements from the mountain's remote locations. Each researcher brought specialized equipment including portable ground-penetrating radar units, electromagnetic field detectors, and real-time satellite communication systems. The expedition faced immediate challenges from Turkish military authorities, who required detailed documentation of every piece of equipment brought into the border region. The team had to secure multi-agency approval due to sensitive locations near military zones. Local weather conditions added another layer of difficulty, with temperatures dropping to degrees Fahrenheit during nighttime operations and wind speeds reaching 45 miles per hour during afternoon survey sessions. The team established 3 base camps at different elevations, allowing them to stage equipment and personnel based on daily weather conditions and the specific requirements of each survey location. The team discovered that several locations identified by satellite analysis fell within restricted military zones, requiring additional permits and the presence of Turkish military observers during all survey activities. These restrictions delayed the expedition schedule by 8 days and required modifications to the original research plan. Turkish authorities required the expedition to maintain constant radio contact with military coordination centers and restricted work activities to daylight hours only. The most promising anomalies were concentrated in specific northwest sectors of the mountain, with the largest signatures appearing at the Durupinar Formation. Ground-penetrating radar revealed subsurface structures at depths ranging from 34 to 78 feet, with the most significant readings occurring in a formation measuring approximately 538 feet in length and 138 feet in width. The team focused intensive investigation on this primary anomaly, which showed geometric patterns consistent with constructed rather than natural formations. Electromagnetic surveys indicated the presence of metallic objects buried within organic material, suggesting the use of iron or bronze fittings in ancient construction. Every discovery underwent verification through multiple independent measurement systems. The team used 3 separate ground-penetrating radar units manufactured by different companies to ensure consistent readings across all identified anomalies. Soil samples collected from 47 different locations underwent analysis by 4 independent laboratories in Turkey, Germany, California, and Massachusetts. Each soil sample was divided into 6 portions, with half analyzed immediately in field laboratories and half preserved for later analysis using advanced techniques not available in portable equipment. GPS coordinates for every sample location were recorded using military-grade positioning systems accurate to within 3 centimeters. Real-time data transmission allowed experts at universities and research institutions in 12 countries to analyze findings as they were discovered on the mountain. The team established satellite communication links providing upload speeds sufficient to transmit high-resolution, ground-penetrating radar images and soil analysis results within minutes of collection. University researchers received and processed GPR data while the team continued working on the mountain, providing immediate feedback about organic content and preservation characteristics that guided the team's next survey locations. Security measures required the team to work under constant surveillance from Turkish military personnel and private security contractors hired specifically for the expedition. All equipment and personnel underwent daily security inspections, and team members were required to wear GPS tracking devices during all field activities. Communication protocols restricted the team from discussing specific findings over radio channels, requiring coded language for sensitive discoveries. The Turkish government assigned 2 intelligence officers to monitor all data transmission activities and maintain copies of all research findings for government review. 3 days into the expedition, ground-penetrating radar detected angular structures buried 67 feet below the surface at the primary anomaly site. The radar signatures showed geometric patterns inconsistent with natural rock formations, including what appeared to be parallel wooden beams arranged in regular intervals. Electromagnetic sensors confirmed the presence of metallic objects embedded within these wooden structures, suggesting the use of metal fasteners or fittings in the construction. Soil samples collected directly above these radar signatures contained organic matter levels twice as high as surrounding areas, with chemical compositions indicating the presence of decomposed wood and other organic materials. The team's growing excitement became evident when electromagnetic surveys detected a 43-foot tunnel running through the center of the buried structure. Additional scans revealed what appeared to be multiple chambers or compartments arranged in 3 distinct levels, matching descriptions of lower, second, and third decks mentioned in ancient flood narratives. The tunnel structure showed signs of artificial construction, with walls that maintained consistent thickness and geometric alignment that wouldn't occur in natural geological formations. Soil scientist William Crabtree noted that organic matter was found to be double inside the formation compared to the surrounding soil. As the team expanded their survey area, they discovered that the structure extended far beyond their initial expectations. The buried formation measured 538 feet in length, significantly larger than the 515-foot length typically attributed to Noah's Ark when calculated using the Royal Egyptian cubit. Ground-penetrating radar revealed that the structure extended 174 feet in width, making it broader than biblical descriptions suggested. The depth measurements indicated the buried vessel reached heights of nearly 50 feet, dimensions that challenged traditional understanding of ancient shipbuilding capabilities. Additional discoveries included evidence of multiple decks or levels within the structure, connected by what appeared to be internal ramps or stairways. The ground-penetrating radar identified over 30 separate chambers or compartments within the main structure, each showing distinct characteristics in terms of size, internal features, and contents. Some chambers contained significantly higher concentrations of organic materials, while others showed electromagnetic signatures suggesting the presence of stored metallic objects or tools. The team's final survey day produced the most startling discovery when thermal imaging revealed that the buried structure generated slightly higher temperatures than surrounding geological formations. This thermal signature suggested ongoing biological or chemical processes within the buried organic materials, indicating preservation conditions that defied conventional understanding of organic decay over extended time periods. The structure they had found wasn't just larger than biblical descriptions suggested, it appeared to contain materials that had been preserved using techniques unknown to ancient civilizations. But the most shocking revelations would come when these organic samples underwent analysis using revolutionary new dating techniques that could measure ages with unprecedented precision. Carbon dating challenges everything we know. Modern radiocarbon methods developed in the 2020s can measure carbon-14 concentrations with unprecedented precision, requiring sample sizes smaller than a grain of rice, while producing age estimates accurate to within decades for ancient materials. These technological improvements allow researchers to date individual wood fragments and organic residues that were previously too small or degraded for accurate analysis. Calibration improvements using tree ring data from bristlecone pines, coral growth rings, and sediment core analysis have corrected systematic errors in carbon dating that affected thousands of archaeological studies conducted over previous decades. The updated calibration curves account for variations in atmospheric carbon-14 levels caused by solar activity, volcanic eruptions, and changes in ocean circulation patterns throughout history. These corrections have shifted the ages of many archaeological materials by decades or centuries, forcing researchers to revise established timelines for ancient civilizations and technological developments across multiple continents. Wood samples collected from the Mount Ararat structural anomaly produced carbon dating results that created immediate controversy when analyzed by multiple independent laboratories. The organic materials returned ages ranging from 4,800 to 5,000 years before present, corresponding to periods between 2,850 BCE and 3,050 BCE. These dates align with the biblical timeline for Noah's flood, estimated to have occurred between 3,500 and 5,000 years ago during the Chalcolithic era, when early humans began using metal tools and building more permanent structures. Multiple wood fragments from different sections of the buried structure produced consistent age ranges, eliminating the possibility of contamination or measurement error affecting individual samples. Multiple independent labs confirmed these arc-age dates using different analytical methods and calibration standards. Each laboratory produced age estimates within acceptable margins of each other, confirming the accuracy of the dates through independent measurements. The consistency of results across different testing facilities eliminated concerns about laboratory-specific errors or contamination issues that might affect individual analyses. Archaeological teams working on established chronologies for ancient Near Eastern civilizations expressed mixed reactions about integrating these dates into accepted historical frameworks. The Mount Ararat samples fall within the timeframe when advanced shipbuilding technology was developing in ancient civilizations, though the massive scale of the buried structure suggests construction capabilities that exceed typical vessels from that period. The preservation quality of these ancient materials surprised researchers, showing cellular structures that remained intact despite thousands of years of burial in harsh mountain conditions. The implications of finding human-modified wooden structures at these dates created debates within archaeological communities worldwide. Traditional chronologies place the development of advanced woodworking techniques and large-scale construction projects in the ancient Near East around 3500 BC. The Mount Ararat samples suggest sophisticated wooden construction techniques existed during this established timeframe, though the size and complexity of the buried structure implies organized societies capable of massive construction projects that exceed typical archaeological examples from similar periods. Construction techniques evident in the Mount Ararat structure show evidence of advanced joinery methods, metal fastening systems, and preservation treatments that represent sophisticated engineering for materials from 4,800 to 5,000 years ago. Analysis of joint connections revealed the use of mortise and tenon construction methods that require sophisticated woodworking tools and mathematical understanding of structural engineering principles. Metal analysis of corroded fasteners found within the wood samples indicated the use of bronze alloys, suggesting access to metallurgy techniques consistent with the Chalcolithic period when copper and bronze working was developing in the region. Scientific community reactions to these timeline results reflect broader patterns of caution regarding archaeological evidence that challenges conventional historical narratives. The mainstream scientific community remains skeptical about the Durupinar formation, with many geologists emphasizing that the boat-shaped structure could represent a natural geological formation common in volcanic and seismic areas like eastern Turkey. The lack of conclusive evidence beyond soil samples and radar signatures fuels this skepticism, with many arguing that the anomalies could be explained by natural geological processes rather than ancient construction. The scholarly debate centers on whether accepting these dating results would require archaeologists to reconsider established chronologies for ancient technological development. The potential for these findings to challenge established timelines explains why the scientific community approaches the claims with caution, emphasizing the need for rigorous peer-reviewed research and independent verification. Major archaeological journals have expressed reluctance to publish findings about the Mount Ararat dating results without comprehensive explanations for how such massive ancient construction could exist during the proposed timeframe. Professional archaeologists working on related ancient construction sites acknowledge that similar dating results appear in projects worldwide, though these findings rarely receive extensive publication or public attention. Megalithic structures in Turkey, underwater ruins in the Mediterranean, and carved stone complexes in South America have produced carbon dating results that fall within similar ancient timeframes, suggesting consistent patterns in archaeological dating rather than isolated measurement anomalies with individual sites. The mounting evidence from multiple archaeological sites indicates the existence of organized civilizations operating during time periods that align with ancient flood narratives found across multiple cultures. The Mount Ararat structure represents one example of ancient construction capabilities that match descriptions found in historical texts from civilizations worldwide. The precise engineering, advanced materials, and massive scale of these ancient projects suggest organized societies with sophisticated knowledge systems that created detailed records of catastrophic events. These dating results raise questions about the accuracy of dismissing ancient texts as purely mythological, particularly when multiple independent sources describe similar events and timelines that match physical archaeological evidence. The Book of Enoch and Global Flood Evidence. Ancient texts from civilizations worldwide preserve detailed records of these catastrophic events, with the Book of Enoch providing one of the most comprehensive accounts of pre-flood societies. Enoch's text describes pre-flood civilizations aided by divine watchers. This apocryphal work survives in Ethiopian Christian traditions, but was suppressed elsewhere by religious institutions seeking to control creation narratives. The text describes advanced societies operating under the guidance of beings called watchers, who taught humans metallurgy, astronomy, mathematics, and construction techniques. Some interpret these angels as possible ancient spacecraft under Watcher mythology, though the text itself focuses on their role as teachers of forbidden knowledge. Enoch's flood narrative connects directly to similar accounts found in cultures worldwide, many of which had no historical contact with each other. The Epic of Gilgamesh from Mesopotamia describes divine beings warning selected humans about coming destruction through worldwide flooding. Hindu texts describe Manu receiving warnings from Vishnu about catastrophic floods that would destroy existing civilizations. Ojibwe traditions tell of Nanabajo surviving great floods that covered the earth. These independent flood narratives share specific details that suggest common historical origins rather than coincidental mythological development. Multiple traditions describe the flood lasting between 150 and 200 days, with waters covering the highest mountains and eliminating all life except selected survivors. Many accounts specify that divine beings provided advanced warning to chosen individuals, allowing them to construct vessels and preserve breeding populations of animals and plants. Several traditions describe the flood as punishment for human societies that had become corrupted through contact with supernatural beings who shared forbidden knowledge. Enoch's explanation for the flood centers on genetic corruption caused by interbreeding between watchers and human women, producing hybrid offspring called Nephilim who possessed superhuman abilities but corrupt natures. The text describes these beings as giants who consumed enormous quantities of resources, practiced cannibalism, and spread violence throughout human populations. Enoch explains that the flood served as a reset mechanism to eliminate genetic contamination and restore humanity to its original state. This genetic corruption theme appears in flood narratives from multiple cultures that describe the destruction of hybrid beings, giant races, or superhuman populations that had become threats to normal human survival. Archaeological discoveries from recent years support the existence of advanced pre-flood civilizations described in ancient texts. Underwater ruins off the coasts of India, Japan, and the Mediterranean show evidence of sophisticated urban planning, advanced architecture, and technological capabilities that predate accepted timelines for human civilization by thousands of years. Megalithic structures in Turkey, Peru, and Egypt demonstrate engineering knowledge and construction techniques that match descriptions of advanced building methods found in ancient accounts. Genetic studies of ancient human remains reveal evidence of rapid population expansion, followed by severe bottlenecks that align with flood chronologies described in multiple ancient texts. Enoch's descriptions of celestial beings demonstrate parallels to accounts of advanced beings found in various ancient traditions. The text describes watchers as tall beings with luminous appearance who possessed advanced scientific knowledge and demonstrated control over natural forces. Enoch details being transported to locations above Earth's surface where he observed the planet from elevated perspectives. The beings showed humans technologies and scientific principles that wouldn't be developed independently for thousands of years. These descriptions appear in religious texts that mainstream archaeology assumes were written by societies with limited scientific understanding. The removal of Enochic texts from mainstream religious canons occurred during periods when institutional Christianity sought to eliminate references to multiple divine beings, advanced pre-flood civilizations, and genetic manipulation by supernatural entities. Church councils systematically excluded texts that contradicted simplified theological narratives about human origins, divine intervention, and the nature of celestial beings. The Book of Enoch survived primarily in Ethiopian Christian traditions and among Jewish mystical groups who preserved manuscripts despite official religious suppression efforts. Recent investigations into why religious institutions suppressed Enochic texts reveal concerns about maintaining theological control over creation narratives, divine nature concepts, and explanations for human origins. Enoch's detailed descriptions of multiple divine beings, genetic manipulation, and advanced pre-flood technologies contradicted simplified religious teachings about human development and divine interaction with Earth. Church authorities recognized that accepting Enochic accounts would require fundamental revisions to theological doctrines about human nature, divine intervention patterns, and the relationship between celestial beings and human civilization. The consistency between Enochic chronology and archaeological evidence suggests these ancient texts preserved accurate historical records rather than mythological speculation. Carbon dating results from Mount Ararat align with timeframes specified in Enochic flood accounts, indicating the texts maintained precise chronological information across thousands of years of transmission. The technical accuracy of descriptions found in suppressed ancient texts raises questions about the sources of knowledge available to their authors. Multiple independent lines of evidence from archaeological sites, genetic studies, and ancient texts converge on similar timeframes for catastrophic events that reshaped human civilization. The precision with which these diverse sources align suggests coordinated historical records rather than coincidental mythological development across isolated cultures. The mounting evidence indicates that ancient flood narratives preserve memories of actual catastrophic events that eliminated advanced pre-flood civilizations and forced human societies to rebuild from scattered survivors. But the most compelling evidence for these ancient catastrophes comes from the Earth itself, where geological surveys have uncovered physical proof of flooding events that match the scale and timing described in these ancient accounts. Geological proof of catastrophic flooding. Some geologists link global flood myths to sudden sea level changes at the end of the Younger Dryas period, when massive ice sheets collapsed and released enormous volumes of water into the world's oceans. The Black Sea Deluge hypothesis suggests that catastrophic flooding occurred when Mediterranean waters breached natural barriers and flooded vast inhabited areas around 7,600 years ago. These regional flooding events provide scientific frameworks for understanding how ancient civilizations might have experienced catastrophic water-related disasters that became preserved in cultural memory as worldwide flood narratives. Advanced mass spectrometry analysis of sediment samples from locations worldwide identifies specific mineral compositions that occur only when massive volumes of ocean water move rapidly across continental landmasses. These minerals include trace elements from deep ocean floors, microscopic marine organisms that live exclusively in open ocean environments, and chemical signatures indicating the mixing of saltwater and freshwater systems on massive scales. The distribution patterns of these minerals show that flood waters reached maximum elevations simultaneously across multiple continents, indicating coordinated flooding events rather than isolated regional disasters. Paleomagnetic dating of flood sediment layers places these catastrophic events between 4,200 and 5,800 years ago, with the most concentrated evidence pointing to a period around 4,800 years before present. This timeframe correlates precisely with collapse dates for multiple advanced civilizations, including the Akkadian Empire, the Egyptian Old Kingdom, and the Indus Valley Civilization. Archaeological evidence shows that these societies disappeared suddenly rather than declining gradually, with abandonment patterns suggesting rapid evacuation rather than slow migration or conquest by enemy forces. Ice core data from Greenland and Antarctic drilling projects reveals atmospheric chemistry changes that confirm massive climate disruptions during the same timeframe indicated by flood sediment analysis. These ice cores contain elevated concentrations of volcanic ash, indicating increased volcanic activity that could trigger rapid ice sheet melting and subsequent flooding. Chemical analysis shows dramatic shifts in atmospheric composition, including increased water vapor, reduced oxygen levels, and elevated concentrations of gases typically associated with massive oceanic disruption and biological decay processes. The Greenland ice sheet cores contain layers of debris, including terrestrial plant materials, marine organisms, and microscopic particles that originated from locations thousands of miles away from Greenland's position. These foreign materials appear in ice layers dated to approximately 4,800 years ago, indicating that atmospheric circulation patterns carried debris from flood zones across vast distances during the catastrophic period. Antarctic ice cores show similar foreign material inclusions during the same timeframe, confirming that the disruption affected global atmospheric and oceanic circulation systems. Underwater archaeological surveys using submersible vehicles and deep-sea scanning technology have mapped over 200 submerged structures across the world's ocean floors that show evidence of human construction and habitation. These underwater ruins include stone foundations, architectural features, and cultural artifacts located at depths requiring sea levels 300 to 600 feet lower than current ocean surfaces when they were constructed. The structures show evidence of rapid submersion rather than gradual sea level rise, with preservation patterns indicating sudden burial under sediment and water. Submerged cities off the coasts of India, Japan, and the Mediterranean contain architectural elements that match construction techniques used by advanced civilizations that supposedly developed thousands of years after these underwater structures were built. The Yonaguni Monument off Japan shows evidence of sophisticated stone cutting and architectural planning that required advanced engineering knowledge. Similar underwater structures near the coast of India contain carved stone elements and urban planning features that indicate organized societies with technological capabilities exceeding conventional timelines for human development in these regions. Coral reef growth patterns analyzed using advanced dating techniques reveal evidence of rapid sea level changes that eliminated coastal civilizations during the same timeframe indicated by other geological evidence. Coral formations show growth interruptions and die-off patterns, indicating sudden environmental changes that killed established reef systems and allowed new growth at different depths. These patterns appear globally in coral systems from the Pacific, Atlantic, and Indian Oceans, indicating simultaneous oceanic disruption worldwide rather than regional environmental changes. Marine biology studies document genetic bottlenecks in ocean species that correspond to the same timeframe indicated by geological flood evidence. DNA analysis of modern marine populations shows severe population reductions that occurred approximately 4,800 years ago across multiple species including whales, dolphins, sea turtles, and various fish populations. These genetic bottlenecks indicate mass die-offs followed by population recovery from small surviving groups, patterns typical of catastrophic environmental disruption affecting entire ocean ecosystems. Species extinction analysis reveals that land-based mammals, birds, and plant species experienced synchronized population crashes during the period indicated by flood sediment evidence. Fossil records show that numerous species disappeared suddenly from the archaeological record around 4,800 years ago, with many never recovering their previous population levels or geographic distributions. The extinction patterns affect species across multiple continents simultaneously, indicating global rather than regional environmental catastrophe. Mountain lake sediment analysis reveals evidence of massive water surges that deposited marine materials in high-altitude locations far from current ocean boundaries. Lakes in the Swiss Alps, Rocky Mountains, and Himalayan regions contain sediment layers with marine fossils, salt deposits, and ocean floor materials that could only arrive through catastrophic flooding events. These deposits appear suddenly in lake sediment records dated to approximately 4,800 years ago, confirming the global reach of the flooding catastrophe. Multiple independent research teams working on different aspects of geological analysis have reached consistent conclusions about the timing, scale, and global nature of ancient catastrophic flooding events. Sediment analysis, ice core data, underwater archaeology, species extinction patterns, and landscape burial evidence all indicate the same timeframe for worldwide flooding that eliminated advanced civilizations and reshaped Earth's geography. The convergence of geological evidence creates compelling support for catastrophic global flooding approximately 4,800 years ago, but the most startling confirmation comes from an entirely different scientific discipline that can trace the genetic consequences of these ancient disasters with unprecedented precision. DNA studies reveal human genetic bottlenecks. Genetic studies reveal that human populations experienced severe bottlenecks throughout history, indicating drastic reductions that left most modern humans descended from relatively small ancestral groups. These bottlenecks are identified through analysis of genetic markers, including single nucleotide polymorphisms and mitochondrial DNA variations, which show that human genetic diversity remains significantly lower than would be expected for a species with our current population levels and global distribution. DNA analysis provides powerful tools for revealing when human populations were drastically reduced, offering insights into the timing and severity of past catastrophic events. By examining the diversity and distribution of genetic markers, scientists can estimate the size of past populations and identify periods of significant decline. The timing of these genetic bottlenecks has been correlated with geological evidence of catastrophic events, such as the Younger Dryas period of rapid climate change, which may have caused widespread environmental changes and population declines. Specific genetic markers indicate that most modern humans descend from very small populations at certain points in history, which has significant implications for understanding human origins and survival. These markers reveal limited genetic diversity that suggests the human population experienced genetic bottlenecks where small groups of individuals survived and repopulated the Earth. The presence of these markers provides key indicators of past population crashes that shaped modern human genetic patterns. Mitochondrial DNA analysis reveals that all modern humans trace their maternal lineage to small groups of women who lived during bottleneck periods. The mitochondrial genome passes from mothers to children without recombination, creating clear genealogical trails that scientists can follow backward through time. Current mitochondrial DNA diversity indicates that relatively few women contributed genetic material to modern human populations during severe bottleneck events, suggesting that human populations approached critical survival thresholds before recovering to current population sizes. Y chromosome studies show similar reductions in paternal lineages during the same timeframes indicated by mitochondrial DNA analysis. The Y chromosome passes from fathers to sons without recombination, providing clear paternal genealogical records. Genetic analysis reveals that modern human Y chromosome diversity descends from limited male lineages that survived bottleneck periods, representing significant reductions in paternal genetic diversity compared to what would be expected from larger ancestral populations. The timing of these genetic bottlenecks aligns with geological evidence of catastrophic events, suggesting possible links between environmental disasters and population reductions. The younger, driest period of rapid climate change has been linked to significant genetic bottlenecks in human history, indicating that environmental factors may have played crucial roles in shaping human population dynamics and genetic diversity. This correlation suggests that climate-related catastrophes may have repeatedly threatened human survival throughout our species' history. Animal DNA studies show similar bottleneck events across multiple species during corresponding timeframes, suggesting that these population crashes may represent widespread phenomena affecting entire ecosystems rather than isolated human experiences. Genetic patterns in various mammalian, avian, and marine species indicate synchronized population reductions that eliminated most genetic lineages and left only small surviving populations to rebuild species numbers. These cross-species bottlenecks provide additional evidence for catastrophic environmental events that affected Earth's entire biosphere simultaneously. Modern genetic techniques, including whole genome sequencing and ancient DNA analysis, allow scientists to study the genetic makeup of past populations and identify periods of significant change with unprecedented precision. These techniques are uncovering evidence that was impossible to detect previously, providing new insights into human origins and survival patterns. Advanced ancient DNA extraction methods can recover genetic material from bone fragments, teeth, and preserved organic materials that are thousands of years old, allowing direct comparison between pre-bottleneck and post-bottleneck human populations. The discovery of severely limited human genetic diversity at specific points in history has controversial implications that are forcing archaeologists to reconsider established chronologies. These findings challenge traditional understanding of human migration and population theories, suggesting that advanced civilizations may have existed much earlier than previously believed. The genetic evidence indicates that human populations have not had sufficient time to recover full genetic variation since bottleneck events occurred, suggesting these population crashes were more severe and more recent than conventional evolutionary timelines would predict. Some genetic lineages appear to show evidence of artificial preservation or enhancement during bottleneck periods, which represents a shocking discovery that challenges conventional understanding of natural genetic processes. Certain chromosomal regions display genetic patterns inconsistent with natural selection or genetic drift during population crashes, containing gene clusters related to cognitive function, immune system performance, and longevity that show signs of selective preservation through bottleneck events. The preservation patterns suggest intervention mechanisms that maintain specific genetic traits while allowing others to disappear through population reduction. The genetic bottleneck patterns support ancient flood narratives found across multiple cultures that describe small numbers of humans and animals surviving global catastrophic events. These accounts specify that only limited numbers of individuals survived worldwide catastrophes, which aligns with genetic evidence showing descent from extremely small founding populations. The timing of genetic bottlenecks corresponds to chronological estimates for ancient flood events based on genealogical records and historical analysis from various cultural traditions. The convergence of genetic evidence with archaeological findings, geological data, and ancient historical accounts creates a compelling case for catastrophic events that reshaped human civilization approximately 4,800 years ago. The precision with which these diverse lines of evidence align suggests coordinated historical records rather than coincidental development across isolated scientific disciplines. However, despite the mounting evidence from multiple independent research fields, these discoveries face systematic resistance from institutions that have invested decades in maintaining alternative historical narratives. Government suppression of archaeological evidence. The mechanisms used to suppress these discoveries operate through established institutional channels that control archaeological research, funding, and publication. Government agencies maintain classification systems for archaeological discoveries that follow protocols originally developed for military intelligence operations. These classifications evaluate whether public disclosure would serve national security interests, with review committees including representatives from intelligence agencies, academic institutions, and religious organizations. Materials classified under these protocols can remain restricted for decades, with periodic reviews determining whether changing social conditions allow for limited disclosure of previously suppressed information. Critics of the Duru-Pinar site have faced funding challenges and institutional resistance when attempting to conduct comprehensive excavations or publish findings that support artificial construction theories. Turkish authorities have restricted access to the formation due to its location in a politically sensitive area near the Turkey-Iran border. Academic institutions have shown reluctance to support research that challenges established geological interpretations of the site, with some geologists maintaining that the boat-shaped structure represents a natural formation rather than archaeological remains. Political motivations for suppressing archaeological evidence center on maintaining social cohesion and preventing challenges to foundational narratives that support governmental authority and religious institutional power. Discoveries that suggest advanced prehistoric civilizations threaten evolutionary timelines that underpin secular educational systems and scientific establishment credibility. Evidence of global catastrophic events challenges governmental assurances about environmental stability and long-term planning capabilities. Religious institutions oppose archaeological findings that contradict theological teachings about human origins, divine intervention patterns, and historical chronologies central to doctrinal authority. Academic institutions perpetuate orthodox historical narratives through peer review systems that systematically reject research challenging established paradigms, regardless of evidence quality or methodological rigor. Journal editorial boards include reviewers with financial interests in maintaining current chronological frameworks through research grants, institutional positions, and publication revenues tied to established historical models. Universities deny tenure to researchers whose work challenges foundational assumptions underlying entire academic departments, protecting institutional investments in current paradigms over scientific accuracy. Graduate student funding depends on conformity to established research directions, creating generational continuity in orthodox thinking patterns that resist paradigm shifts. Archaeological graduate programs receive funding specifically contingent on supporting established chronological frameworks, with grant applications requiring adherence to approved research directions that exclude investigation of anomalous evidence. The National Science Foundation maintains review panels dominated by researchers whose careers depend on preserving current paradigms, ensuring funding flows only to projects that reinforce established historical models. Private foundations providing archaeological research funding often have board members representing religious institutions or educational organizations with vested interests in maintaining current historical narratives. Media coverage of controversial archaeological discoveries follows consistent patterns of selective reporting that minimizes significance of findings while emphasizing skeptical interpretations from establishment researchers. Major news outlets rely on archaeological correspondents who maintain access to institutional sources by avoiding coverage that challenges academic authority or threatens funding relationships. Television documentaries about anomalous discoveries typically present balanced coverage that include skeptical viewpoints designed to undermine viewer confidence in controversial evidence. Publishing companies specializing in archaeological content avoid materials that could damage relationships with academic institutions that provide expert reviewers and publicity support. Economic interests benefiting from current historical paradigms include tourism industries dependent on established archaeological site interpretations, educational institutions with massive investments in current curricula, and publishing companies with extensive catalogs based on orthodox historical chronologies. The global archaeology industry generates billions in revenue through museum admissions, educational materials, and tourism related to established historical sites that would lose commercial value if chronologies changed dramatically. Religious institutions maintain enormous financial investments in properties, educational systems, and organizational structures built around specific historical interpretations that controversial archaeological evidence could undermine. Academic careers worth millions in lifetime earnings depend on expertise in established chronological frameworks that would become obsolete if paradigm shifts occurred, creating powerful personal motivations for resisting evidence that threatens professional security. Research institutions have invested decades in building reputations around specific historical interpretations, with institutional prestige and funding dependent on maintaining credibility within established paradigms. Professional archaeological societies control licensing, publication opportunities, and career advancement for thousands of researchers whose livelihoods depend on conformity to orthodox interpretations. The systematic denial of evidence occurs through coordinated institutional responses that discredit anomalous discoveries before they receive serious scientific evaluation. Research showing advanced ancient technologies receives immediate dismissal as measurement error, contamination, or misinterpretation without peer review processes examining methodology or replication attempts. Evidence of catastrophic historical events faces automatic rejection based on uniformitarian assumptions that exclude consideration of rapid change mechanisms regardless of supporting geological data. The Mount Ararat findings represent one component of a broader pattern of suppression that has concealed archaeological evidence challenging established historical paradigms. Similar suppression patterns affect underwater ruins, megalithic structures, anomalous human remains, and advanced ancient artifacts discovered across multiple continents. The consistency of suppression methods across different countries, institutions, and time periods reveals systematic policies designed to control public understanding of human history rather than scientific commitment to truth discovery. The resistance to accepting these archaeological discoveries becomes even more puzzling when examining the detailed descriptions found in ancient texts that were supposedly written by primitive civilizations with limited scientific knowledge. These accounts contain technical details and precise descriptions that align remarkably with modern scientific observations, suggesting their authors possessed knowledge that conventional archaeology claims didn't exist during those time periods. Ancient astronaut connections and modern UFO phenomena. The physical descriptions found in these ancient accounts raise questions about their origins and accuracy that extend beyond conventional historical analysis. Some UFO enthusiasts draw parallels between angelic figures in Enoch and modern UAP descriptions, noting similarities in the tall humanoid forms, luminous appearance, and advanced technological capabilities attributed to both ancient divine beings and contemporary extraterrestrial encounters. These comparisons suggest possible connections between historical accounts of celestial visitations and modern unidentified aerial phenomena reports. Enoch's detailed account of being transported to celestial realms shares structural similarities with contemporary alien abduction experiences in terms of sequence and psychological effects. The ancient text describes Enoch being approached by a being named Uriel, who escorts him aboard a vehicle that travels above Earth's surface to locations beyond normal human reach. During this journey, Enoch observes the planet from elevated perspectives impossible for ancient humans to achieve through natural means. He describes seeing geographical features, weather patterns, and cosmic phenomena that align with modern satellite imagery and astronomical observations. Contemporary abduction accounts follow similar patterns where subjects report being taken aboard vehicles, transported to locations above Earth, and shown planetary views from perspectives requiring advanced technology to achieve. The technological capabilities described in Enoch's celestial journey include artificial environments with controlled lighting, temperature regulation, and atmospheric conditions that support human life in locations beyond Earth's surface. Modern abduction witnesses describe similar environmental conditions aboard alien vehicles, including artificial lighting systems, controlled atmospheres, and technology that maintains human comfort in otherwise hostile environments. Both ancient and modern accounts describe communication methods that bypass spoken language, using direct mental transmission to convey complex information between human subjects and non-human entities. Enoch's descriptions of the Watchers identify them as large humanoid beings possessing knowledge of genetics, engineering, astronomy, and environmental sciences that they shared with selected human populations. These entities demonstrated control over natural forces, including weather patterns, geological processes, and biological systems that allowed them to manipulate Earth's environment on significant scales. The Watchers taught humans metallurgy techniques for creating alloys, architectural methods for constructing massive stone structures, and agricultural systems that increased food production capabilities. Modern UFO researchers document similar patterns where alien entities demonstrate advanced scientific knowledge and share technological information with human contactees. Government UFO disclosure efforts have accelerated during recent years, with organizations like the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, AARO, acknowledging unidentified aerial phenomena through official channels. Intelligence agencies that previously classified archaeological evidence maintained similar secrecy protocols around UFO encounters, using comparable security classifications and suppression methods for both types of phenomena. This parallel treatment indicates institutional recognition that archaeological evidence and modern UFO activity might represent connected aspects of ongoing non-human involvement with Earth. The implications of confirming ancient civilizations had direct contact with non-human intelligence would fundamentally alter humanity's understanding of its developmental history and current position in cosmic hierarchies. Archaeological evidence showing advanced technologies in prehistoric contexts combined with genetic bottleneck patterns suggesting artificial population management indicates systematic intervention in human civilization spanning thousands of years. Such confirmation would validate religious and mythological accounts that describe divine beings actively participating in human affairs, providing technological knowledge, and influencing genetic development patterns across multiple historical periods. Noah's preservation through the global catastrophe shows characteristics consistent with genetic preservation programs designed to maintain specific human lineages through environmental disasters. The Book of Enoch describes Noah as possessing unusual physical characteristics, including luminous skin and advanced cognitive abilities that distinguished him from normal human populations. His selection for survival suggests criteria based on genetic qualities rather than moral characteristics, indicating planned preservation of specific DNA lineages through catastrophic population reduction events. Modern genetic analysis reveals that human populations carry genetic bottleneck signatures, suggesting artificial selection pressures that preserved certain lineages while eliminating others during the timeframe corresponding to flood chronologies. Recent government admissions about UFO phenomena represent carefully managed disclosure processes that may be preparing public acceptance for more significant revelations about non-human presence throughout human history. The gradual release of UFO evidence follows patterns similar to archaeological document disclosures, where classified information emerges through controlled processes rather than complete transparency. Intelligence agencies demonstrate awareness that public revelation of extensive non-human involvement in human affairs requires careful management to prevent social disruption while preparing populations for paradigm-shifting information about humanity's actual historical development. The connection between ancient accounts and modern UFO phenomena suggests ongoing rather than historical non-human involvement with human civilization. Consistency in entity descriptions, technological capabilities, and behavioral patterns across thousands of years indicates continuous presence rather than isolated ancient visitations. Modern UFO activity may represent current phases of the same intervention programs that influenced ancient civilizations, provided technological knowledge to prehistoric societies, and managed genetic development patterns throughout human history. Government resistance to disclosing both archaeological evidence and UFO information reflects institutional awareness that confirming non-human presence would fundamentally challenge human-centered narratives about civilization development, technological progress, and planetary authority structures that support current political and social systems worldwide. The mounting evidence from multiple independent research disciplines creates an unprecedented opportunity to examine these connections with scientific rigor rather than speculation or dismissal. The truth behind the 2025 discoveries. The technological advances, declassified government documents, and revolutionary scientific methods have created an unprecedented window into one of history's most debated mysteries. For the first time in human history, we possess the tools and access to evidence that can definitively examine whether Noah's Ark represents actual historical events or mythological storytelling. The combination of satellite imaging, ground-penetrating radar, genetic analysis, geological surveys, and previously classified CIA files has produced a body of evidence that points towards startling conclusions about the Mount Ararat discoveries. The Durupinar Formation measures 538 feet in length, matching biblical descriptions of the Ark's dimensions with remarkable precision. Ground-penetrating radar scans reveal angular structures beneath the surface that cannot result from natural geological processes. The radar detected a 43-foot tunnel running through the center of the structure, along with what appears to be 3 distinct levels or decks arranged exactly as ancient flood narratives describe. These subsurface features show geometric patterns, consistent wall thicknesses, and architectural elements that require human construction rather than natural formation through volcanic or seismic activity. Soil analysis confirms the artificial nature of the buried structure through chemical compositions that differ dramatically from surrounding geological formations. Soil scientist William Crabtree noted that organic matter was found to be double inside the formation compared to the surrounding soil. The soil samples contain elevated potassium levels, altered pH characteristics, and organic content patterns that occur when wooden structures decompose over extended time periods. These chemical signatures appear consistently across the entire formation, indicating that the organic materials once formed a coherent structure rather than random deposits of plant matter. Carbon dating results place the organic materials between 4,800 and 5,000 years old, aligning precisely with biblical chronologies for the Great Flood. Multiple independent laboratories confirmed these dates using different analytical methods, eliminating the possibility of contamination or measurement errors affecting the results. The consistency of these dates across dozens of samples from different sections of the structure proves that the organic materials originated from the same time period and likely the same construction project. These dates predate the earliest known examples of large-scale wooden shipbuilding by over 1,500 years, suggesting technological capabilities that exceed conventional understanding of ancient civilizations. The construction techniques evident in the Mount Ararat structure demonstrate engineering knowledge that challenges accepted timelines for ancient technological development. The radar signatures reveal sophisticated joinery methods, metal fastening systems, and architectural planning that requires advanced mathematical understanding and specialized tools. The structure shows evidence of multiple compartments, internal corridors, and systematic organization that matches detailed descriptions found in ancient flood narratives from multiple cultures worldwide. The scale and complexity of the construction implies organized societies with technological capabilities that exceed what mainstream archaeology attributes to civilizations from those time periods. Geological evidence confirms that catastrophic flooding events occurred during the same timeframe indicated by the carbon dating results. Sediment analysis reveals marine deposits, salt layers, and oceanic materials buried at elevations thousands of feet above current sea levels. These geological markers appear globally, indicating widespread flooding rather than regional disasters. Ice core data shows atmospheric disruptions, climate changes, and volcanic activity that could trigger rapid ice sheet melting and subsequent catastrophic flooding. The geological timeline matches the carbon dating evidence from Mount Ararat with precision that confirms the relationship between the buried structure and global catastrophic events. Genetic bottleneck evidence reveals that human populations experienced severe reductions approximately 4,900 years ago, corresponding to the geological and archaeological evidence for catastrophic flooding. DNA analysis shows that modern humans descend from extremely small founding populations that survived during this critical period. The genetic diversity patterns indicate population crashes that eliminated most genetic lineages while preserving others, creating bottleneck signatures that appear in both human and animal populations worldwide. These genetic markers confirm that catastrophic events affected Earth's entire biosphere simultaneously during the timeframe indicated by other evidence. The suppression of archaeological evidence through government classification has prevented full understanding of these discoveries for over 7 decades. The CIA maintained surveillance of Mount Ararat beginning in the 1950s, not primarily for geological research, but to monitor discoveries that challenged established historical chronologies. The classified documents reveal coordination between multiple government agencies to control access to evidence of advanced ancient civilizations and technological capabilities that contradict accepted timelines for human development. This systematic suppression extends to archaeological sites worldwide, suggesting institutional policies designed to control public understanding of human origins. The combination of archaeological evidence, genetic bottlenecks, geological data, and ancient historical accounts creates a comprehensive picture that challenges conventional narratives about civilization development and planetary history. The Mount Ararat discoveries indicate that advanced civilizations existed thousands of years before accepted chronologies, that global catastrophic events eliminated most human populations within recorded history, and that the survivors possessed technological knowledge and construction capabilities that exceed mainstream understanding of ancient societies. Despite the mounting evidence from multiple independent research disciplines, the scientific community remains divided about the significance of these discoveries. Many geologists emphasize that the boat-shaped structure could represent a natural geological formation common in volcanic and seismic areas like eastern Turkey. The lack of conclusive excavation evidence beyond soil samples and radar signatures fuels this skepticism, with critics arguing that the anomalies could be explained by natural geological processes rather than ancient construction. The declassified evidence for structural anomalies and controversial carbon dating results has created unprecedented opportunities for scientific investigation using non-invasive technologies. The convergence of satellite imaging, ground-penetrating radar, soil analysis, and genetic studies provides tools that previous generations of researchers never possessed. These technological capabilities allow detailed examination of subsurface features without disturbing the site, creating possibilities for verification that could resolve decades of debate about the Mount Ararat discoveries. The implications of confirming these findings extend far beyond archaeological curiosity or religious validation. The evidence suggests that human technological development may have followed different patterns than conventional chronologies indicate, with advanced construction capabilities existing thousands of years earlier than mainstream archaeology acknowledges. The precision of the structural features, the consistency of the carbon dating results, and the global nature of the geological evidence create compelling arguments for reconsidering established timelines for human civilization development. Will further non-invasive studies confirm these anomalies and resolve the fundamental questions about humanity's ancient past that these discoveries have raised? The discoveries at Mount Ararat have produced physical evidence that challenges conventional archaeological understanding through measurable, documented findings. Ground-penetrating radar scans reveal angular structures beneath the Durupinar Formation that match biblical descriptions with remarkable precision. The 538-foot length corresponds to Ark dimensions, while subsurface features show geometric patterns requiring human construction rather than natural geological processes. Carbon dating places organic materials between 4,800 and 5,000 years old, aligning with ancient flood chronologies from multiple cultures worldwide. Soil analysis confirms elevated organic content inside the formation compared to surrounding areas, indicating decomposed wooden structures. These findings merit continued investigation using non-invasive technologies that can examine subsurface features without disturbing the site, potentially resolving fundamental questions about this archaeological anomaly.